Hello, welcome to the Query podcast, where we talk about everything in the field of data science, from artificial intelligence, analytics, machine learning, and automation. Each week, we bring industry practitioners to inspire you, our listeners, on your journey to becoming a successful data scientist. We are your hosts, Amar and
William.
So let's query on.
In today's episode, we'll be talking a little bit about ourselves, our journey, and how we transitioned into data science. We also share a little bit about our experiences, our challenges we faced so far. So query on and let's go. Yes, so I'm with my co-host, and today we are going to be talking about ourselves, and you're going to know more about us. So, Amma, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, William. Thanks for that introduction. Well, as you all know, we're presently in the UK and we're doing a master's in data science. And prior to that, about myself, like I was in finance, as you know, William, and work in finance startups, and also I'm a self-taught developer. Like I taught myself how to program before enrolling into this program which we are currently into. So I'm on this journey to become a data scientist, and previously I've not had a role as a data scientist, but I've had a role as business analyst.
Okay.
And so that's where I picked my interest into data science, and yeah, I am now in this program, which I'm very excited to see what comes out of it, and also about the opportunities that are out in the data science field. And I've mostly been in statistics too and finance. So this is like my core strengths.
Okay.
And I'm intending to build on that by learning, let me say, statistics, computational tools, right, in the sense of R, Python, in terms of programming, and also my core focus I would like to go into is data engineering.
Okay.
So that's something I'm very passionate about, and machine learning. And I think that's just all about me, guys, like not so much. And so what about you, William? What about yourself? What can you say about your past experience and, let me say, your current situation and also the future you?
Okay. So similar to you,
Yeah.
I also did banking and finance, and I also work in the finance space initially. But I used to do like web development on the side, also self-taught as well. So yeah, so I did that for a couple of years. Then I started thinking, okay, so what do I want to do actually?
Yeah.
And I wanted to I was looking for something I could blend like my passion and my experience, which is being finance, and my passion being tech.
Exactly.
I started looking into data science. So yeah, so that's when the whole interest came about. So yeah, so currently I'm also doing my master's in data science, and it's been a wonderful experience so far. And prior to this, I had the opportunity to work as a data analyst with a company back in Ghana, because that's where I'm from. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and I also wanted to build on my skills as well. I mean, I've been able to work on a couple of projects using Python, Excel, Power BI, but I also wanted to build my statistical aspect and my intuition. So that's why I chose the master's program in data science, because I feel like even though there's a bridge in academia and the real world, it was still necessary for me to also learn something as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And also to add to that, I mean, data science is one of those fields in computer science which I think, let me say, academic credentials holds a lot of value and weight, because I mean, a lot of the research is being done in academia.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that you decided to pursue that, just like me also. And also, I mean, for our listeners, we're at Brunel University, and also my background in terms of my country of origin is Cameroon.
Yeah.
And William is from Ghana, as you rightly heard. So
we have a lot in common.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're just trying to say this out for other. I mean, I'll say people are trying to transition from other countries, trying to go abroad for studies and for work.
Yeah.
So it's also important to just like know that, I mean, like, opportunities out there, and you should not be limited because of, let me say, like, you come from a country of, let me say, less opportunities.
Yeah.
Just and it's the case of account, just in the sense of, let me say, sometimes you have problems with internet and all the difficulties you may have trying to, let me say, access resources and all that.
Getting unlimited resources, you know. So yeah, so I mean, moving forward, we are even going to tell like our listeners some of the opportunities we got, the tools we utilize to get this far. Also help them in their journey. I know most of them are scared to make them move.
Exactly. And
you just need to make them move. That's what's important.
Yeah.
With the right resources and the right track, you'll be able to get there. I mean, that's what this whole podcast is about. To be able to share experiences with people, especially people back home. In Africa.
And
so,
those also presently trying to also, I mean, get, let me say, tech roles, especially in the realm of data science, data engineer, AI engineer. In fact, everything in that realm of data science. And so coming to that, I also like to know, I mean, William, how do you prepare yourself, right, in order to, let me say, come into this course? Because I mean, it's a course which is, let me say, I'll say, cognitively intense, right? So how do you, let me say, prepare yourself prior to enrolling in this course? What were the things you did back home? Even as a web dev, some of the things, what were the resources that, let me say, like back home that you had to like use, right? And also prepare yourself to become a web dev and now transitioning now into like data science. So I'll say pre-web dev and also enrolling into this master's program. So some of the things you can share with some of our listeners to also better prepare themselves on this journey. Because I mean, from finance to software engineering to data science, man, that's
okay. So let me start from how my interest in computer even started. So it was back in high school. I started looking into web designing with a friend of mine. He started as web designing, like just front end development, HTML, CSS. So he was the president of our IT club, and I was like the vice president. And so through curiosity and everything, always on the internet looking at what's happening, and I just stumbled upon web design. I was like, no, let me give it a try. So there are unlimited resources on the internet, W3 schools, YouTube and everything. So that's how I started off with like all these things. So I started with that, learned like basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Sure. So then for my undergrad, I actually wanted to do computer science. Back then, typical African parents. But I don't know about your country, but then for my country.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, African parents are African parents.
But back then, they didn't really like the whole idea of computer science because they felt like there was no future for it, especially in our country.
Exactly.
But then, I went to uni and I did finance because I love numbers. And I also like money, so investments and everything as well. So I went ahead to do banking and finance in the uni, but then I didn't let it stop me. So on the side, I was still always, so YouTube really helped me a lot. Also Udemy, took some courses on Udemy, YouTube. Then I also moved to like people that I can do this. So that's the trick that I used to do. So I take projects. So after taking the projects, now I have no other option but to do it. Learn. So I end up like going on YouTube, a lot of research on YouTube, Udemy. So that's why I started off with like just free courses before I moved into like paid courses.
So, just add to that before you continue. There's this rule of thumb that says always say yes before you can say no.
No, exactly.
So you can always say no, but if you say no, you can't say yes later.
You can't say
so
you say yes before you say no. So so that's how I started with the web design. So I was still into finance. I was doing on the side, but then I didn't even do anything back end. That's the interesting part. So it was along the lines, just a few years back, that I started to move into like add backend as well. Learn other frameworks. Moving into like Node.js and did everything of that. So, but I never did Python. Never. Like I had no experience in Python as well. So recently, I was like, now I'm doing finance. I'm doing like web and all that. But really, what do I want to do? So I was like, you know what? Data science, I've been hearing a lot about data science. I started making research into it. I was like, this is the perfect fit for me. Because I'm also curious as well. It blends everything. And it's like you're working with data. You're connecting everything. And data is everywhere. Data is the new gold, the new oil, as we say now. So that's how I started. So with data science as well, YouTube. Once again, there are a lot of like people on YouTube. So I started with YouTube. got like introduction to the course and people talking about the data science space and everything of that. So also data camp was very helpful as well. So then I was also looking for any opportunities available. And luckily, there was this friend of mine that also introduced me to a program. I heard of this program. It's called Blossom Academy. They really loved me a lot. So it was a sponsored program, sponsored by the German government, and Digital Africa. So it was a great program. So I started to utilize the opportunity as well. So where we did data analysis and everything, then that's when I polished my skills on Python.
So,
the interesting thing about programming is that it just is about the logic. Like you just understand the logic, then you find the syntax. So that's what I was using. That's what helped me. So I was able to master Python. By the end of the day, I started doing customer segmentation using K-means clustering and everything of that. So like from beginner to advanced and everything. Then I also learned how to use Power BI, Excel, and everything of that sort. So Data Camp was very helpful for me. Data Camp, YouTube, those two. Mainly that's what has helped me in my career. So and afterwards I was like, I'm not going to stop there, even though I got a role as a data analyst. I wanted to advance my skill as well, upskill. So I was like, let me move to data science itself. Because what I was doing was more visualization, data analysis. So that's when I decided to look into data science and at Brunel. So so with anyone that wants to transition, probably they should just start with the free resources. YouTube is very helpful. There are a lot of websites as well. We'll be sharing them soon. And also Data Camp, Coursera, all these places are really good. Those you also look out for opportunities. Like I know there are so many opportunities out there. People want to sponsor. Even recently, you remember the Pi Data event Humble Data. Anaconda wants to do something like that. PyCon Ghana, PyCon Africa. So but I'm sure you have also like a lot of experiences you want to share with our listeners and everything. So
anyway, to come back to what you were saying before, talking about my experience about the events you spoke about we attended last that was last week, right? Couple of days backward. And this event was just basically us just being curious, right? So I'm just trying to talk about that curiosity
as a data scientist.
Exactly. and just to tell people and to tell guys and listeners that there's so many opportunities for data science, abroad and also locally. So some companies that are also trying to integrate data science into some of their projects. So that's like one thing I need to bring out, so that people shouldn't be scared about are they jobs or will my skill be wanted in the job market. So because at that event there's so many recruiters, right? And wanting to sponsor and wanting to just talk with people, and it was something we never expected because we just think we were going to go and learn a new tech stack and all that. So that's what I'm trying to just highlight. But okay, coming back to the question you asked me earlier about my own journey, I think it's similar to yours.
Exactly.
It's similar to yours in the sense that my undergrad and grad was in finance, and also did a couple of finance certifications. CFA, I left it halfway, and the FMVA, Financial Modeling and Valuation Analyst course, I also did that. So I was very good with Excel, but Excel has, some deficiencies. Exactly. And I was very good, with VBA. VBA is like the back-end programming of Excel. So I'll do some of these charts and all this kind of, dashboard, and sometimes my supervisor, when I say treasury analyst, will be very like, wow. And you'll be like, okay, you'll be feeling like some more kind of whiskey kind of but I never really felt the power of Excel. And so I started becoming interested, in other tools I could use. So I came across Python automation and also Python analyzing big data and web scraping.
Web scraping, of course.
That stuff, web scraping, it blew my brain. Because also this time, I think there's some data we're supposed to get from the central banks and I'll say website. And so we needed to build some query and VBA does, I'm not refusing, but it's also limited with some kind of, zip queries and all that. So that's some of the things I was sparked my interest in data science. I was later recruited by this consulting firm for a role of business planning analyst, which was mostly business analyst, right? And I work with a lot of startups trying to also do some automation, reporting, and all those kind of things in the realm of business analyst, which was quite interesting. But still, it came back to one experience I had in the past. Like after my undergrad, I went for a crash course
Yeah.
That was like development webcam. But I left it halfway because at the end I was only with just my classmate and I realized we're doing more of peer learning than actually, let me say, transmitted knowledge from the teacher to the student in that context. So I was learning more from this, my friend. I did so many projects together. I mean, this guy is, it's one of the good programmers I know. The other great guys, but I mean, so he was one of the people I was always like working, doing side projects with. We had a lot of startup ideas and all that. I mean, those were some good times. But I also realized I had too much dependency on him. So that's when I became interested more of like learning web dev and all this stuff. I went for my master's, but it's not still, let me say, take away that curiosity. I always try to always like, I would start, exactly. So I would start and leave. You know, that's failure. I don't know if you had it, but it's like you're learning and it's like you reach this point like, oh God. You leave it exactly. So I went through that kind of, I'll say, learning loop hell. Where you get to an aha moment and you feel like you're satisfied, but after you reach a block and you ask how do you overcome that? So, but a couple of years backward, it started to click. And it was with JavaScript. JavaScript was like actually the breakthrough for me. When I got JavaScript, it was like for me like, okay, I'm bilingual, I speak French and English. So for me, it was like French. You understand? So it was like my second language. Like to me, it was native. Python did not sound native to me at first, but now because I had the understanding of JavaScript. So when I started to learn Python, couple of, let me say, months before I got into this program. I mean, learning Python in the sense of data science, pandas, NumPy, exactly.
All of them.
So it started to stick, started to like click, and those are the things I also say. Like I did, like you, I had DataCam, exactly. YouTube. Oh, thank God for Google, man.
Also, not to cut you short. There are a couple of virtual programs that also help. I remember Forage. I did some virtual internship with Forage. Where you work on like real world data sets.
Yeah, you spoke about that, and it was very impressive when you spoke about that.
Because I mean, if you're not careful, you might be stuck in the learning loop.
Exactly.
You need to be working on projects. That's very important as well. But I feel like we have similar experiences.
Exactly. So I think that's all about. Let me say, I don't have much like that, but that's we have similar because we come from the same background. But see, I would like to know from you, William. I mean, being in the program right now, what is, let me say, your take about, let me say, data science pre-enrollment in this program and now? What's your understanding of data science? What are some of the things you feel like you should have done, or you think like, let me say, you have been better informed being enrolled in this program? There's some loops that you feel like you have prepared yourself better for, or some other challenges that like you've had and that you feel like maybe our listeners also maybe on this journey, or some of others in other master's programs in the UK, right? They can do to also, let me say, optimize their, I would say, expected outcome when they leave uni.
So, well, I'll talk about before and like during the perception that I have.
Exactly.
So I just realized that before I didn't really pay much attention to storytelling. But when I started the course, I realized how important it is. Everyone overlooks it. Everyone thinks about the programming aspects and forget about the storytelling aspects. Because at the end of the day, it's how you're able to tell
to stakeholders
that this is what the insights that you're able to drive. This is the recommendation that you want to make. So storytelling is one thing that I never paid attention to. I was always paying attention to the technical aspects. Right.
I think we'll have that.
Exactly. And during, I realized that fine, academia will show you the way. Will give you pointers. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. That's one thing I've realized coming here. It's up to you. It's how curious you want to be. So it's about the curiosity. You have to be eager to find projects to work on. And also not limit yourself to what is being taught. Because currently we are doing now. But then we are also working on other projects in Python and all that. So if you should ask me, I'll say that's one thing. That I'll say my perception has changed, and also what I know I need to work on. I don't know about you. What do you think?
Well, I think it's almost the same. I feel like it boils down to, let me say, the aspect of storytelling and also trying to bring stakeholders to a common table. And just like you, so I mean, I also had that bias to like, you like technical things.
You like to just be storytelling is very important.
Very, very important.
As well. So
and also there's also this aspect also, let me say, like to also talk about, let me say, the programming aspect and the statistics aspect. It's something, bro. I don't know, but let me say, like, sometimes I always like to think about the tools, maybe sometimes interpreting the data, which comes to the storytelling. It's like, so sometimes it's like, okay, I want to just like know the tools, like how this work and all that, but sometimes not okay. Maybe on the other side, because I mean, say, since in finance, I mean, there's statistics in it, right?
Exactly.
So maybe that's the bias that you like, because you feel you're strong here and you tend to, let me say, forget about this other and try to stay beyond. But I feel like both are important.
Everything is important as well.
I feel it's bilateral. They talk to each other and to make informed decisions.
Interesting thing is today how we spoke about data science being a science or art.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in a way, it's a form of art because you are blending a lot of things together.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do one and
exactly.
the other.
Exactly.
So data science is very broad, and at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's how you want to learn and also master skills and how curious you are. So I'm sure you have a lot of, let's say, resources that you would also want to share with our listeners, and also advice that you want to give them, like anyone that wants to transition and everything of that sort.
Yeah, I know. With a grain of salt, I mean, I always like to share my experience with a grain of salt, because everybody's scenario and situation is a little bit different, right? And context in which you find yourself. But what worked for me, and I feel like it can help others, from my experience, I feel like just wanting to do something, that curiosity that you have, right? I feel something you should always have a baby curiosity and follow that curiosity. Chase that curiosity. Because at the end of the day, I mean, when you let that curiosity be like I would say like your driving force, right, and be your compass, is going to lead you to places that are beyond your imagination. I was just curious about how do you program. It led me to this. I was curious about how do you like make informed decision from a lot of, let me say, different data sources. It led me to data science, right? And I'm curious about like how do you like, let me say, get data in an optimized way, and now it's leading me to data engineering. Right. And so from there, I don't know like what is going to lead, but I just believe, let me say, like one thing that as adults we should always have in us, and is the baby in you. The baby in you in the creative sense of that word. Like just trying to explore. And also, I mean, when you meet naysayers or people that are like sometimes also want to be like your watchdog, or just try to help you, because sometimes people mean that to be good. Like, why you can't do this? Like you can't do this. Sometimes, but if you know yourself and you know that, like there's this Marcus Aurelius say, know thyself. If you know that, I believe it's one of the most critical strengths. If you know your weakness, you know you can build on that, right?
Exactly.
And so watching YouTube is free, man.
It's free, a lot of content.
It's free. So. I don't know why people go pay for something. Like for me, I find it very difficult when I have to pay for some content. It must be good. So I feel you should finish with the free resources before you go for paid resources. And also like have a peer that you can always collaborate.
It's very important, because I feel like, even from my experience, it's always like someone we spoke to. And you can't do this journey by yourself. You should have a community. You don't know anything. Even us, we could actually create a community.
Exactly.
That's so something we should be working on. You should have like a community. So you motivate each other, peer to peer learning. And that's the only way to move on. Because you can't do this journey by yourself. So.
And not to cut you short, but to tell you to like, I mean, from my own experience, that's what worked for me, right? But I feel like from your own context, I mean, you can also like share with us, right, what worked for you. What, I mean, back home, you did some of the things, like your own journey, because I feel like it's very important, even though you spoke about other things, but I mean, your own context, how is it like, and things you did, I don't know.
So, as you said, the main thing was my curiosity as well.
I
had to research, and if you want to go into data science, you need to be willing to research. Like, you need to ask a question. You need to always ask yourself why. Like, always ask these questions. Why? How? So, how did this come about? Like, that's the whole point. So, if you're not willing to ask questions, then it's going to be a problem for you. So, I feel like that's one thing that also helped me a lot, and that's also one advice I'll give people, that just be curious. Like, you should find out why this is happening. Just keep asking the questions.
And just for you to build on that, and just talk about this aspect of imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
How did you deal with that? And for those that know about imposter syndrome, please can you also explain and elaborate on that? So how you overcame it, and let me say some of the things you feel is important for someone to do in order to, let me say, overcome that and continue learning.
There's funny enough, there's actually a quote that contradicts that, but I've forgotten the second part. But then imposter syndrome basically means that you feel like you don't know enough, and it's just only about time that you'll find out that you don't know. But then the opposite thing is that you would always feel like you don't know enough.
Yeah.
But then what you should be focused on is, okay, I feel like I don't know enough.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do about it?
Exactly.
So you rather work on what you feel like you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Because you can never know everything.
Sure.
So it's okay to feel like
yeah.
you don't know enough.
Yeah.
But then don't think it's just a matter of time that they'll find out that I don't know. Nah, you don't know enough.
Yeah,
so what are you doing about it? So I'm building my skills. I'm working on projects to overcome that.
Yeah.
So it's more about, you always feel that way. It's a feeling that you can't take away. But the only way to make you feel confident is if you keep working on your weakness and also working on more projects.
And also talk about the imposter syndrome, let me say, for career transition. Because I think I feel in that area it's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Because let me say you're from a non-computer science or engineering background.
Yeah.
But let me say you're from a financial engineering background, but not like in the hard science of computer programming. So how do you also like deal with that? For those that also, let me say, for example, you can have somebody that listens to our podcast now. He's in the health field. Exactly. He's for, let me say, in anthropology, social sciences. And he's trying to go into. So I mean, these are like sometimes you feel like they'll be like. So how do you? So these are the context. Like in your own case as a finance guy, so I don't know, how is it like we have peers? I don't know.
Yeah,
so, you get what I mean?
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. So so initially I was feeling like, I'm moving into data science.
Yeah,
I didn't do computer science.
Exactly.
I didn't do the typical courses like academia, maybe data structures and like algorithms and everything I did. So. But then when I started watching videos and I started practicing things for myself, I realized it was a plus for me.
Yeah.
So then I wasn't too scared again.
Exactly.
Because sometimes domain knowledge helps.
Okay.
So if you're working on the data sets, and it happens to be you have a background in that field. For instance, if I'm working on like a data set for a fintech company, it's not going to be too much of an issue for me because I already have the domain knowledge. So then it becomes a plus. So even if you are transitioning from a different field, yes, it's difficult. But it's also a plus for you. Because you also have a domain knowledge of that particular field, the data set you're working on. So that's what helped me.
Okay.
So I just, as I said earlier on, upskilled. So I brushed on the parts that I knew that I wasn't good enough. Right. So so I did that, and also the fact that I knew domain knowledge was good for me, and I was able to do that.
So thank you guys for spending the last 26 minutes with us on this journey to becoming a better data scientist. And I want to give a shout out to some communities and also events which we believe will be very valuable for those who are into this journey of becoming a better data scientist. For those in Africa, check out
Blossom Academy, PyCon Ghana.
And PyCon Africa. And for those who are in the UK, please also check out PyData. And also look out for events on Eventbrite and also Meetup. Those are great places where you can, let me say, go out and check for tech communities wherever you are. And I also want to give a shout out to Intel for the OpenVINO AI tool, which we believe is very valuable for those who are into AI and also computer vision. And for our guest of next week on the podcast, we'll be talking to one of the youngest and brightest minds in machine learning, working for one of the biggest financial research institution in the world. And so, guys, for no reason in this world should you miss that episode. And until we meet again, let's query on.